All right, welcome back. This is Wooden Sticks. My name is Kevin Gorg, of course, here on the Talk North Podcast Network. And as always, we record from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We are all here in the middle of summer now, at least here in the cornfields, rotating from high humidity to high levels of rain, in between some decent weather, and of course the NHL draft upon us this weekend. We're recording this on a Thursday morning. The draft is Friday and Saturday, and then free agency next week on July the 1st. So the Minnesota Wild haven't made a move yet, and one of the players on the Buffalo roster that we talked about on the show last week with Pat Micheletti, JJ Peterka, has been moved to the Mammoth out in Utah. So, and I think for Minnesota, I don't think they're just going to make a trade to say they've made a move. Bill Guerin is smart enough to realize that they're not far away. And if you're going to add a high-level free agent, which I think they will, I think Brock Besser right now seems the most likely. This team is young. The core of this team, led by Kirill Kaprizov, is going to be in the fight from the drop of the puck. So it isn't like they've got a big gap to make up. And I know fans are anxious to see dramatic movement, and we live in a microwave society where we want everything now. But the way this is playing out, at least reading the tea leaves from where I sit, I think everybody's going to be a little bit patient and trust the process. But I do think we'll get some updates here, maybe a trade, but maybe that free agent that the Wild need to add some depth to their top six and make their power play a little stronger. If you want to add a guy from my hometown, we call it God's country in Burnsville, I'm all for it. And I love Brock Besser. So we'll see how it plays out. But every week we try to get an update on that and keep kind of, seeing where this thing is headed. And I think, we'll find out a lot more before we record next week. And really excited to see what this team is going to do. And I'm very confident that they're going to get the Kirill contract locked down. And we're going to see a hockey team that hits the ice next fall that's ready to compete in that division. I think they have a legitimate chance to be in that conversation, to win that division, even though it's one of the toughest ones on paper in the National Hockey League. And then I think as you see this thing play out, I think the Wild are going to be just like they've been the last couple of years, when healthy, as good as anybody out there in terms of putting up 90, 95, 100, 105, in that neighborhood of total points. So still very encouraged, but I think right now there's been a little bit of a lull, and I thought it needed to be addressed on the front end of the show. And of course, as the summer progresses, I did have a chance to connect with Matt Hendricks, who's the general manager of the Iowa Wild and obviously a part of Bill Guerin's staff. He's committed to being on the show here in the next couple of weeks. So especially if we get a few moves we can digest, it'll be fun to have Matt on, and down the road get Billy G on to get his thoughts as well. So pencil those in here for later, likely in July and into August. Today we're going to talk a lot of college hockey, and this is a guest today that I've had in the back of my mind to have on here at some point this summer. His name, Rico Blasi, certainly should be familiar to most college hockey fans, the head coach at St. Thomas, and a guy that spent 20 years at Miami of Ohio. At one point was the national coach of the year back in 2006. He's a 5-time conference coach of the year, and what he's done at St. Thomas is remarkable to me, knowing firsthand as a former player there, a former coach over there, what he had to deal with in his first 4 years. And the St. Thomas Arena, where the cadets play, is a nice venue for high school hockey. It is not a venue you can recruit to if you're a Division I coach. Yet every year the Tommies have gotten better. They've been able to play the best programs in the country. Teams like Minnesota State down in Mankato, and they've gotten to the point now where they expect to win these games. And they look like a program that continues to be on the come. And they finally now have this brand new, beautiful, state-of-the-art arena that they're going to unveil here this fall, the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena, which we're going to get a sneak peek at through the eyes of the head coach, Rico Blasi. Today, they've got a non-conference schedule that includes some big-time college hockey programs, which we'll break down with the bench boss as well, and then we'll talk about his journey and how growing up in Canada, he found his way into the college hockey world, both as a player and as a coach at Miami, Ohio, and finally the work he's done at St. Thomas. He's got a great way about him. I've had a chance to get to know Rico here in the first 4+ years he's been at St. Thomas. I've had a chance to see his kids and be in the locker room with them, and just super impressive head coach, and more importantly, a human being. He's just a really good dude. And, you look at the way his teams compete, you look at his coaching staff, you look at Jabs, his equipment manager. These are just high quality human beings. And I think that sets the tone for what this program has become. And for all of us that played there back in the day, it sure makes us proud, and really excited about where Rico is taking this hockey program. And I think if you're a college hockey fan, and if you're more importantly a fan of college hockey in the Twin Cities, to have another big-time program that can compete down the road into the NCAA tournament, and down the road maybe a national championship, all boats rise, and more opportunities for our kids here in Minnesota to play locally and to have family and friends be able to come watch them. It was a big reason I chose St. Thomas after a year of junior hockey back in 1986. Think about that opportunity to play high-level Division I hockey and do it in the Twin Cities. We all know what a great market this is, and then to have all your family and friends be able to watch you play your college hockey years, spectacular. And for a long time, it was just one option over in Dinkytown, and a great option with the Golden Gophers. But to have this program now evolve to the place that it has, and I have a really good feeling about where this thing is going. It's going to be pretty amazing, and I can't wait to break it all down with Rico today on the show. Before I get to Rico, though, we wouldn't have a podcast without our partners. I really want to say some special thanks here. First to my friends at the Minnesota Masonic Charities, led by John Schweitz. When people think about the Freemasons, they often think about the secret handshakes and those crazy hats. And of course, they always have those cool pancake breakfasts. But Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the U of M, or the Masonic Children's Hospital, and of course the Masonic Home over in Bloomington. Just a few examples, folks, of the important work that Freemasons support here in Minnesota. They're part of the largest fraternal organization in the world. Masons have consistently answered that call when it comes to charitable needs. I'm so happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities and John Schweitz have chosen our podcast as a place to help spread the word. I'm looking forward here in the coming weeks to months to continuing that great momentum. Thank you to the Minnesota Masonic Charities. One of our newest partners are the good people over at 10K Construction.
Randy Shaver here. I'm bringing back Shaver's Prep Football Podcast beginning the end of July. Every week, we'll dive into the best of Minnesota high school football, and I'm proud to say we're now powered by 10K Construction, Minnesota's go-to guys for roofing, siding, decks, windows, and everything in between. After severe weather hits, they'll even come out and give you a free, honest inspection to make sure your home is in good shape. Schedule your free, honest inspection today at 10kconstruction.com or call 763-200-6064 for more information. That's 763-200-6064. The land of 10K Construction.
As always, got to thank our guys at Onyx Maps and Onyx Fish.
Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs. That's where Onyx Hunt comes in. And it's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country. From farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property, this app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onxmaps.com/hunt to get started.
And of course, my good friends over at Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Head coach Rico Blasi next here on Wooden Sticks. Welcome back to Wooden Sticks. As always, we are recording today from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Happy to be joined right now by the bench boss at the University of St. Thomas with the men's hockey program, a good friend of mine, Mr. Rico Blasi. Rico, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Kev.
It was great to connect with you at the Leadership Summit that the Wild put on a couple days ago and get a chance to meet one of your captains, Lucas Wallen. And what an exciting time right now for all of you at St. Thomas and for all of us alumni, Roll Toms, with the news of the week that the NCAA has made it official. St. Thomas is a member now and can play in the postseason in the NCAA tournament. That's got to make you as a head coach pretty pumped up.
Yeah, it's been quite an adventure since we got here 4 years ago, and as you know, St. Thomas has had so much success at the Division III level, and so much hard work has gone into building our program from all of our alumni, administrators, past coaches. That when the news came, obviously we knew something like that was going to happen earlier in the year, but you never know until a final yes is said. So it's exciting for our program, for everybody involved. The build has been, as you know, interesting, but rewarding at the same time. And it's kind of fitting because we move into our new building in early October, and all of this is happening at the same time.
Yeah, the timing is impeccable. And, from all of us that have been watching the build, as you call it, I would say everybody that I've talked to is impressed. And I think a lot would say you guys might even be ahead of schedule to go from where you were just 4 years ago to where you are right now, and to see improvement, steady improvement every single year. And now to know that you have the opportunity various ways to punch your ticket to an NCAA tournament. I think for the kids in the locker room, this has to be incredibly motivating.
It really is. We've been recruiting the last, few years with not knowing if we could play in the tournament. And now the last couple of years has been a little bit easier because those guys will eventually, we had a 5-year period drop down to 4. So those guys would eventually have had the opportunity to play in it. But for our first recruiting class, Lucas Wallen and his group, they did not know that this would happen. They did not know that they would play in a new building. They knew that we had a program and they were going to get an opportunity, and we were building it together. And so I think it's exciting for our senior class. I think it'll translate through the entire team, and their excitement level, their commitment to each other, commitment to St. Thomas just went up a little bit just because of the announcement.
Well, I was lucky enough to have a chance to peek at your phone and see some really cool video and pictures of the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. But for our listeners, give them a little sneak peek at what this new building is going to look like.
Well, it's going to be state of the art, and as you know, it's both the main arena will be home for not only the 2 hockey teams but the 2 basketball teams as well. And so that'll be exciting to have everybody under one roof. We do have a second sheet in case basketball is playing during the week or on the weekend and we can practice. It'll be an opportunity for our community to use that arena as well with youth hockey and hopefully some high school, which is a great opportunity for everyone in St. Paul and really in the Twin Cities. And then, in terms of our locker room facilities, it's just state of the art, dry change area, players lounge, state of the art locker room, meeting room for pregame meetings and special teams and things like that, just like the NHL teams have, shooting room. So we have all the little bells and whistles that we need to be at par with all the big programs across the country. And I can tell you there's not a bad seat in the place. It'll seat about 4,000 for hockey and just over 5 for basketball. So it doesn't matter where you're sitting in the building, you're going to be on top of the play. And with the energy that our student body will provide, it should be a great atmosphere.
You've been able to build this program, Rico, in 4 years without the benefit of having a rink on campus and without really the benefit of having a rink that you can bring recruits to and use that as an asset to get them interested in your program. Now, the school and the campus are unbelievable in that regard, but to have this new building, to have the state-of-the-art facility, the training area, the locker rooms, and I've had a chance on a couple of different occasions to get a little sneak peek at this. It's incredible. How much of a ripple effect will that have on recruiting in the years to come?
Well, as you know, we've never had a home for hockey here on campus. So this is groundbreaking for us. Obviously our institution academically and reputation-wise is fantastic. So that's still really, really important to our culture and to the guys that we're going to recruit. Our campus is beautiful. It's amazing to me, Kevin, how many recruits from the Twin Cities we have. When they come to campus and I ask them if they ever been here, they had no idea where St. Thomas was. And so it's tucked away here, just a block from the Mississippi here in St. Paul. And it's a beautiful campus. It's growing. Our enrollment is growing, which is awesome. The support from the alumni, the administration, all that checks out. Obviously, we've had some really good financial donations for our building and for the program, which is important in today's world. But to have the building on campus where our guys can walk from class to practice or vice versa, and our student body to come and watch us play. When we recruit now, the first thing we'll do is we'll go through the building, right? And then we'll do the walk of campus. Right now we do the walk of campus and we talk about the rink. So I think it's going to help. I think it's going to, again, give us an opportunity to be in some homes that maybe we wouldn't have been if we didn't have a building. And once they get on campus, I think everybody gets pretty excited about it.
Well, I can speak from experience, and like a lot of kids that grew up in the Twin Cities, I knew of St. Thomas, but I didn't know where it was and what it looked like. And so I played a year of junior hockey in the USHL, and Ohio State kind of was asking me to play a second year of junior hockey. I took a tour on campus with the head coach at the time was Terry Abram over in St. Paul. And my dad and I walked around that campus, spent about 3 hours over there in St. Paul. We got in the car, and I legitimately was just going over there because the coach had called me. And I was really kind of set on going back and playing in Des Moines and then likely moving on and trying to play at Ohio State. And it was a life-changing decision. And I knew as soon as I got in the car that was the campus I wanted to go. And that was where I wanted to be a student. And I have zero regrets almost 40 years later. And so I think you're right to get a little more exposure and to bring people to that campus. And you mentioned it, not only for basketball and for hockey with the Tommies, but now maybe some high school hockey games. You mentioned maybe some section games down the road. 4,000 seats to me, Rico, in this market for a big time college game or some high school section games is perfect.
I think so too. And you don't want to be too big, and you don't want to obviously be too small, but you want to hit that sweet spot where it's an atmosphere. The pricing's good. It's obviously college hockey. I'm going to be biased here, but it's the best product for your money. And it's got that feel that, you're on campus. It's pure, even though college athletics is a little bit upside down right now. It's still the pure game. And these guys give everything they have, and they work so hard. And I'm mostly excited for our players to be on that ice surface with their fans and their fellow students and our alumni and our donors and everybody involved.
How much did your time at Miami of Ohio, 2 decades there, National Coach of the Year at one point, 5-time Conference Coach of the Year, but beautiful campus, high-level academics, and competitive hockey. I look back now as I look at your bio and realize that Miami of Ohio, that whole entire setup is almost a mirror of where St. Thomas is going right now. That has to be a pretty easy mesh for a guy like you to build and cultivate what you want at St. Thomas.
Well, thanks for saying that. It is very similar in terms of how we're building it, in terms of building the culture and the identity. A little bit different, going from a program that had been Division I for really not that long, 10 years, 15 years when I got there. So, and me having played there, I knew a little bit more about the campus and everything. So I needed to go to school a little bit and understand, our alumni, understand our identity as a university. I will tell you one thing, Kevin, and this is really important to me, and I think it's really important when you're talking about business and when you're talking about building culture, is that what your values as a head coach and what you believe in need to line up with not only the athletic department, but with the university mission as a whole. And when I talked to Phil, Dr. Eston, about the job, the first thing I went to was the mission of the university, right? And does that line up with what I believe in as a person, as a human being, what I was taught as a young person growing up in a first generation Italian household, and the things that I learned not only from hockey but going through my education in the classroom. So once I knew that our values lined up here at St. Thomas, and our values with Dr. Eston and the way he runs his athletic department were all lined up, well, then to me, that's an easy sell. To me, that's an easy way, even though it's a lot of hard work, don't get me wrong, and it takes time. It's easier to build a culture and create your identity, because when your student athletes are on campus, they're getting the same message. It might be a different way, but the bottom line is all the same. And so, you mentioned, we're a little bit ahead of time, ahead of schedule. I don't know that I thought that way. I thought we could be really good right away because of the university and what it stands for, the athletic department, what it stands for, and how we were gonna build the culture and the identity of our program. So still a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but when those three things line up, you have a fighting chance of being really successful for a long time. And so that's where we're going to continue to strike home on this faith in brother. That's our culture code, our identity, our relentless work ethic in terms of what we do from day to day, not only on the ice, but off the ice, a commitment to each other, to our family, to everybody that came before us and everybody that's going to come after us. We have an opportunity and a responsibility to make sure that we leave the program better every day. And so I feel good about where we're at. And listen, we couldn't have done all this without the support of you and our alumni. Obviously, Lee and Penny Anderson for their big donation for the new arena. And we have others too, right, Kevin? You know that. We have some really, really good hockey alumni that have supported not only our program, but me from day one, when we started this transition to Division One. And it's not easy to go from D3 to D1, right? Nobody's done it before. So for us to do it as an entire athletic department has been really, as an insider, to see what we've done, it's the only thing I can say. It's remarkable. I every day I'm in awe, and every day I meet somebody new that just started working here. That 4 years ago we probably had about 25 people in the office. Now we have, close to 100. So it's been great.
Well, I got to tell you, going back to way back in the 80s when I was there as a student athlete, they were talking about trying to get a rink on campus. There were murmurs of maybe going Division One. We even played a schedule when I was a player at St. Thomas that included games against Notre Dame, Alaska Fairbanks, Alaska Anchorage. So we dabbled with some of those D1 matchups. But a couple years ago, I was on the road traveling with the Minnesota Wild, and a bunch of my college classmates and former teammates and a bunch of my college friends were over at the Xcel Energy Center, and you guys were playing the Minnesota Gophers. And everybody knows, in this town and in college hockey, that's a landmark program. That's a benchmark where if you can compete with them, you basically can compete with anybody. And that is any year. And I know you know where I'm going. I mean, this was an overtime classic thriller, a back and forth game, and I'm getting text updates literally every 2 minutes on my phone as I work somewhere throughout the NHL. And I was almost numb with excitement. And I know all my former college classmates and teammates were just going bonkers. And for you as a head coach, and I know in the heat of the moment, you're just focused on the game, Rico, but what a moment in time for all of us that are a part of St. Thomas to see that game.
Well, I just got chills by you saying that, because that's what it's all about, right? It's about the compete. It's about being the best that you can be. It's about, you guys being proud of what we do, because we're proud of what you've done for us. And, I try to relay that to our team all the time. You're not just playing for you and your family. You're playing for a group of guys that have kind of laid the groundwork for you to be who you are today here at St. Thomas. And so there's a lot of gratitude that goes with that, and in terms of our culture. And I believe our guys play with that gratitude. And when you play with that compete and that gratitude and that selflessness that you need to be a great program, good things happen. Now, were we as good as Minnesota? Probably not. We were playing with 10 scholarships, Kevin. We haven't gotten our scholarships till this year. Nobody wants to talk about that, but if I say that to Bob Motzko, who I played for at Miami, was one of our assistant coaches.
Yep.
Hey, you just lost an overtime to a team that has 10 scholarships. You probably wouldn't have felt pretty good about it. But we continue to grow and evolve our program, and we want our alumni and our fan base and our student body to be proud of what the guys do on the ice, and equally as proud of what they are off the ice. And like I said, you gave me chills doing that. That motivates me to be better today. And we want to get back on the ice with the Gophers and anybody else. We're scheduling in hockey is a little bit wacky in terms of trying to get non-conference games. But I'm sure that we'll get the Gophers back on the schedule. And I think we should play every year, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we're going to get to the schedule here in a little bit, because I really got excited to see some of that non-conference schedule you're alluding to. But I want to go back to where it all began. We call the podcast Wooden Sticks for a reason. We want to take it back to where it all began. And you grew up in Western Ontario, hockey country for certain. Where did your love of hockey come from, and at what age did you start to get the bug to play the game?
Yeah, it's a great question, because my parents are from Southern Italy, Kevin. So there's no hockey in Southern Italy. So my parents immigrated. My dad was 20. My mom was 14. They met in Toronto. I don't know why my dad fell in love with the game, but he did. He still is the biggest Montreal Canadian fan in Toronto that you're going to find. And they can do no wrong, by the way. Doesn't matter who they're playing. Somebody's wronging them if they lose. And so my first memory of being on the outdoor ice is with a Guy Lafleur jersey because my dad loved Guy Lafleur. And, and I think I was probably around 4, and my dad got me into the house leagues in the town that we were playing, in the, district that we were playing in, or living in, I should say. And it just kind of took off from there. And then I was really lucky to play for some really, really good coaches growing up. We're very loyal, and I think you can see that in my bio. I never left Miami 20 years. I played for George Gwozdecky in college, worked for him at the University of Denver. And I played for Stan Butler, who's a longtime junior coach in the OHL, and I kind of grew up playing for him all the way through. So, those were really important years for me to kind of solidify why I love the game and why I wanted to be involved in the game for a long time.
Well, I think about your dad and the Montreal love in Toronto. It's like wearing a Yankees jersey into Fenway Park and going
Right.
against the home team. That was our big time rivalries, as you know. So you wore the number 10, you wore the Guy Lafleur, and I have great memories of when they would come to play the North Stars at the Met Center. That was the game you circled on the schedule every year. They were like the New York Yankees are now in baseball. Was that your team growing up? Were you a Canadiens fan like your dad?
Well, I had to be, or my dad wouldn't do anything for me. So there were a lot of fights in school, right? We at recess, I remember we would play Toronto against Montreal, and there was a handful of us that were Montreal Canadian fans, and there were some I don't want to say some brawls, but recess was quite interesting back then.
Have you ever had the chance to watch a Montreal Canadiens game either at the old rink, the Forum, or now at the Bell Center? Have you been there?
I haven't been to the new Bell Center, but I took my dad to a playoff game in '93 when they won the Cup with some connections. So it was that's still a great moment for us. He's and my teammate at Miami, Brian Savage, ended up playing for the Habs. So Brian would send a jersey or something, a hat or something to Dad every once in a while. So he still he's got more jerseys, Kevin, in his closet. He's got St. Thomas jerseys, he's got Montreal Canadiens jerseys. My brother's coached in Toronto, so he's coached some NHL guys. He's got all sorts of jerseys in his closet, but make no mistake about it, it's always the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, it's a hockey cathedral up there, and when you go to a game in Montreal, it just feels different. And we were lucky enough last year to have the Marc-Andre Fleury thing play out, where they had to stop the game for 7 or 8 minutes as the crowd acknowledged a guy that never played a minute in a Canadian sweater, and it was one of the most powerful moments of hockey I've ever seen. And that just is a credit again to that fan base. They're unbelievable, and your dad's a part of that. And it's hockey immortality. So it's pretty cool that you get to latch onto them.
No doubt. I was watching that game. It's as you get older, you kind of appreciate those moments, and even just watching the guys win the Stanley Cup and the way they speak after the game and stuff like that. Just those are the great moments in hockey. That's what makes hockey so great. It's everyone is so humble and appreciative of the game and the people around it. It's really cool.
It certainly is. You mentioned the Flying Alphabet, George Gwozdecky, and over my years covering college hockey, I was lucky enough to interview him a couple of times and just had a ball doing it. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. How much of an impact did he have on you as you look now back years later at the coach you are?
Oh boy, that would take a long time. He's obviously my huge mentor. Just learned a lot about running a program. There's a difference between, he would say to me right off the bat when I was a young 23-year-old as an assistant, there's a difference between coaching a team and running a program. And so I wanted to just embrace all that knowledge of running a program. Obviously played at Wisconsin, won a national championship at the Division III level at River Falls, went to Michigan State as an assistant, big time program in the mid 80s. early 80s that won a national championship, worked under Ron Mason, played for Badger Bob. And then I was fortunate enough to play for him at Miami and then work for him. So I wanted to just soak it all in. I still have books of his pregame speeches because I would write everything down when I was at Denver. And he means a lot to me. And, we still talk quite a bit even today. But I remember when I got the job in 99 as a head coach at 27,
Wow.
I think I talked to him 3 times a day because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And he kind of guided me through that first year, all the good and the bad and some of the, things that we had to do at Miami. But so he means a big deal to my coaching career and what we do. And, the other person that I'm going to give a little bit of credit or a lot of credit, and who he is Steve Miller, who's the assistant at Minnesota. I was his partner at Denver, and I learned a great deal about recruiting, about what to look for, to make sure that we were recruiting to what George wanted. So he deserves a lot of credit too, because I still do those things even with my staff now. And so I've been lucky with especially those 2 guys kind of mentoring me along the way.
Hey, it's Mark Rosen with a reminder to tune into my weekly podcast, Rosen Sports Monday, every week on Talk North Sports.
Yeah, Steve Miller, just a high quality human being. I played against him back in the day, and I've got a chance to interview him many times, and I love him. I think he's just fantastic. And so I really find it interesting because of the geography and knowing we talked already about Minnesota and Bob Motzko's program, to have those guys just over the river. And like you said, it'd be great if you could play them every single year. I understand how college hockey works. That might not happen. But I do believe, Rico, and I've said this now as I've watched, this building of your program here evolve, that there's going to come a time when Minnesota looks at St. Thomas as a serious rival. And I think, for all of us that grew up in an era when this was a Division III program, people would have laughed at us, 20, 30 years ago. They're not laughing anymore. And that to me speaks to where this is going and speaks to what you've been able to start. And I think it's a big time compliment.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's ultimately our goal, is to be a NCAA tournament team here in St. Paul, year after year.
Well, and you mentioned college hockey, and I'm trying to keep up, and I can't even imagine what all of you guys as coaches and even players go through. So I just want your honest thoughts. We'll start with the transfer portal. I totally got it during COVID. I thought it was a wonderful idea. I don't know how we put the toothpaste back in that tube, but what are your honest thoughts about the portal?
Well, you're not going to put the toothpaste back, that's for sure. I had a teacher one time tell me good intentions have paved the road to hell. And I think that's where we're at with the portal. I think the idea is a great one, right? You have players that don't get the opportunities. A lot of the programs have extra players. There's only so many pucks out there. There's only so many opportunities, and you know how it goes. So I think that was a great thing to put the transfer portal in, and not have to sacrifice a year of your play. Where it's gone is crazy, right? In all sports, now you can transfer multiple times. I mean, now there's so much that goes on that's not what the rule was intended to be. But we're human beings and we're all flawed. And if there's a wrinkle or some way to get an advantage, people are going to do it. And they have, and they will continue to do that. So, it's a crazy world with the transfer portal, and then you add everything else. And I'm sure you're going to ask me about NIL and all that. I don't know. what I tell our staff is we have a race to run. Let's stay in our lane. Let's be true to who we are. Let's try to be the best that we can be and try to do what we can do with what we have. I don't, again, the NIL is a great thing to have. I mean, name, image, and likeness is it's the right thing. But what has happened they've taken it to a new level. It's not name, image, and likeness anymore. Now, the House settlement is trying to, put a cap on that, and good for them. It'll remain to be seen how that, works and how it's, in terms of compliance, how that works with that. So hopefully that settles everything down a little bit. There's the opt-in, opt-out, revenue share. Listen, most universities don't have any revenue, right? I mean, they're barely scratching the surface. So the Power 4 schools, they're all going to have some revenue, and that's great, but it's a handful in hockey. It's not a lot. We have some programs in hockey that do really well. So, it's, sometimes the old guy in me comes out. It's not about, your institution and what you provide and the experience you provide. And we still want to be transformational. We don't want to be transactional, but we live in a transactional world. And so how do we run our race and still be true to ourselves and our university? It's, I'm not sure that I like it, but I have a responsibility to St. Thomas, and we got to make the best of it.
Is there a thought process out there that they're going to look at the transfer portal and try to modify it, where if you give a kid the chance to change schools, that's all well and good. But I think where we get into trouble now is some of these student athletes are jumping every single year. And I think if you limit it to one move, or if the coach that recruited you or brought you in has moved on, then that maybe opens up another window. Is there ever a thought process out there that they might modify this in the future?
If there is, I haven't heard it. I've heard at some point the way it's going that student athletes will be employees. Then if they're employees and they have contracts, it's going to be really hard to have a transfer portal. But I haven't heard anything, Kevin. It's and then you get, in all these sports, you get third party involvement. And so that becomes a little bit crazy as well. So anyway, it's, we in hockey, we don't live in the world of basketball and football, thank God. Some of the stories I hear from our basketball guys, it's pretty crazy there.
Yeah, it's too bad. And I am an old guy, and I have doubts that this is a long-term solution, but like you mentioned, it's the world we live in. We have to figure it out. And I had to ask you, I want to get back to the positivity. And I looked at your non-conference schedule, and as a hockey fan, I look at October and I see 3 road sets to start the year. One's a individual game, and then a couple of series at St. Cloud State, up to Grand Forks to play North Dakota, and then off to play Air Force. And that's an unbelievable non-conference schedule, but also to get the guys out on the road early from a coaching perspective, that has to be good too.
Yeah, so this happened 2 years ago when we started kind of talking about the building, and if all things were lined up correctly, and the good Lord was looking down on us at St. Thomas, that the building would be ready sometime early or late October, I should say, early November. So my thought process was, all right, well, let's not really, schedule anything at home if that's going to happen. We can hedge our bet on it. So that's where the road series came into play. North Dakota was gracious enough for us. We had a contract for 2 years, but since we're moving into the NCHA a year from now, we would be playing North Dakota anyway. So that would have to be torn up. So the suggestion was made by Brad Berry to play a home and home. And I suggested maybe we can go to the X, which he liked. And So we're able to work that out. St. Cloud is one game at St. Cloud on that first Saturday, and then they'll come back to the new building in November. And then Air Force is a series that will play at Air Force this year, and then Air Force will come to us a year from now. So it's a crazy schedule to start, but like you said, being on the road, getting the team together, I think that'll help us moving forward.
And for our listeners, the weekend to maybe circle here in the Twin Cities, October 24th and 25th. Marquee program comes to town in Providence. The Friars are always one of the elite teams out east, and it's the brand new unveiling of the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena that we've talked about a little bit here on the show today. I know you're excited. I know your players are excited. But for everybody in St. Paul, this is going to be one of those special weekends, and we get to finally see that arena on campus that we've been hearing about, Rico, for 5 decades.
Yeah. It's boy, I don't even know what to say. I'm trying to keep my excitement down and in check because there's a lot of work to be done before that. But every time I step in that building, as they're continuing to finish it off, you get more and more excited. So Providence is a great program, national tournament team. It's going to be a great battle. That's honestly Providence, small Catholic institution in Rhode Island, with a lot of history and a national championship. That's what we're going to be. That's our goal. That's what we want. And, that'll be a good weekend for us to see where we can go.
All right, just a few minutes to go here. I really appreciate your time today, Rico. This has been really an awesome conversation, but it gives everybody, I think, a lot of excitement for what lies ahead. I was lucky enough to meet one of your captains at the Leadership Summit in Lucas Wallen. He played at Hill Murray for Bill Lechner back in the day. Could not have been more well-spoken, more down-to-earth. And then, between conversing with you and a couple other people here in the market, finding out what an unbelievable player this guy is, and you think there's a real potential this guy ends up at the pro level, maybe the NHL level. So from Lucas on down, tell me about your team for this year.
Well, Lucas is our heartbeat. He kind of drives the bus, and not only in games but in practice as well. So, but we've got a good senior class. It's a big class. It's our first recruiting class. And so, we lost Cooper Gay to the Avalanche, which obviously is what we do. It's part of what we do, develop our players so they can sign NHL contracts. But as a whole, that group has meant a lot to our team. We're talking about Luke Leyland and Ryan O'Neill and Carson Peters and Aaron Trotter. I'm probably missing a couple here, but I think we've tried to surround them with some really good young guys that complement them. We were able to go into the portal and bring some guys back home from other institutions, which is also a big plus for us being in St. Paul. Some of these guys that didn't get the opportunities that they thought they should have had get a chance to come home, and it's worked out really well with our recent transfers that we've had in our program, like Matthew Gleason and Liam Malmquist and Chase Foley. So I think it's going to be a good mix of older and younger guys with some talent, some size. I like this is the first year we're fully funded in terms of scholarships. And I feel really good about the depth that we have at every position. So having said that, we as coaches got to stay out of the way, make sure we put together a good plan and let them kind of run with it and guide them when they need to. But Lucas will hold that room accountable. He's a 3-year captain now, and he's got a pretty good feel of what he can and can't say and how to go about things.
Do you look, and you mentioned you're going to be moving to the NCHA, which is a fabulous conference, maybe the best conference on paper in college hockey every single year. Do you anticipate any of the rivalries that you've established in these first, well, it'll be a handful of years when it's all wrapped up. But like I look at Minnesota State and the Mavericks as one of those teams that you've had a really good battle with every year, every game. It's been tooth and nail. Are there going to be any carryover non-conference rivalry series that carry over from this conference when you make that switch?
100%. You mentioned Mankato, and those have been really good battles the last couple of years. Anyway, the first 2 years they might have had their way with us. They were great. Mike Hastings, when he was there, had just a juggernaut of a program going, and Luke has taken over and done an unbelievable job. Obviously, we lost them in the finals, so nothing's really changed there. They're still a top-notch team in the country, and we want to play them. And Luke and I have already set that up, home and home, and we're excited about continuing that. We're going to continue our rivalry with Bemidji. We're going to sprinkle in Augustana. So I think those in-state rivalries will continue to be something that we want, and that will continue to build over the years. And then when you sprinkle Duluth and North Dakota and St. Cloud and Denver, it's going to be quite an interesting schedule every year.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm really happy to hear that too. That some of those rivals will definitely carry over as you make that transition. Okay, final segment, fun section here, Rico. This is the Hat Trick Hot Seat. We get to learn a little bit more about you, and maybe a restaurant recommendation here at the end. But we'll start with this one. 3 quick questions. Your favorite college arena as a player or coach to participate in on the road. So you can't obviously pick the building you're going to, and you can't pick the building you played in at Miami of Ohio. But when you were on the road as a player or coach, what was one of those buildings that just brought out your very best?
Well, the Gopher fans will like this. I loved winning at Michigan.
Yes.
Nothing better than going into Yost Arena as a player or as a coach and just being bombarded by fans that hate you because you just beat the Wolverines.
It's on my bucket list. I have never been to Yost. I've seen, plenty of games on the TV, but it looks like they're hanging right over you. And, Michigan, they always bring the noise. So that's a great pick. And it's
and they're not
rink
polite.
I need to get to.
They're not polite,
No.
Kev. No.
I didn't think they would be.
In fact, I'll show you a picture next time we're together of what they did when I was walking off the ice.
I'll remind you, because I definitely want to see that, because I am going to get to that barn. I am going to get to the football field, the big house on that same campus. So that's on my list. I'm a little bit older, but, I think you're old enough to have a great answer here. I hope so. I want to know your first concert. I want to know the venue and the band you went to see when you went to your very first concert.
Oh, boy. I'm trying to think now. My best concert or the first one?
You can go either way, because I think we'll get a window into who you are.
Let's go best concert, Churchill Downs, Bon Jovi.
Oh, come on. You didn't just go Churchill Downs on me.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. I had no idea he played there.
Oh, my God. It was 2.5 hours, no interruption. I kept saying to my wife, this is the NHL, and every other concert's the American League.
Well, every song's just a banger, and then you're at Churchill Downs, one of the most historic facilities to host a sporting event on the planet, and that's magic. That's a great answer right there. That is a really good answer. Well, we're going to put the Italian on the center stage now, because we've got a lot of listeners that love Italian food. So I want to know your favorite Italian spot in the Twin Cities. And maybe you haven't found it yet. I assume within 4 or 5 years here, being the great Italian you are, you found something. I know I work with a guy named LaPanta that claims he's the best in terms of finding Italian spots on the road during the NHL season. But what's the best one in town?
Well, I can't just say one.
Okay.
But I'm going to go, obviously Casetta's, you got to go to Casetta's.
Love Casetta's.
We take most of our recruits to La Grolla in St. Paul and Selby.
Oh, yes.
And, if you want to go to Ciao Bella, that's pretty good too.
I love Ciao Bella in the summer. The patio there is second to none. Those are good picks. And I love that you played the crowd a little bit here. We've got some different spots, some different vibes, no question about it. But Cassetta's in St. Paul, especially on a hockey night, you can't go wrong there. Well, Rico, it was great to see you a couple of days ago, and I know you're busy, so taking the time today to be a part of the show here means an awful lot to me, and I know our listeners greatly appreciate it, and I'm so excited to come see a game at your new building this coming winter.
Well, I want to say thanks to you, Kev, for all that you do for us in St. Thomas. And, one of my favorite things this past winter is seeing your picture on Twitter in high school. So keep it up.
I love it. Thank you again. That's Rico Blasi, the head coach at St. Thomas. I'll be back to put a bow on this edition of the show. All right, we're back on the show, and what fun that was. Yeah, the high school pictures. Father Time does what he does. I tell my daughters all the time, I had a full head of hair, man. I had a mullet. I had a perm in the back when I played junior hockey, and they laugh because, my daughters really, unfortunately, have only seen the head of hair that I've been blessed with now, which is little to none. But maybe they're a big part of that. We won't go there. They're good girls. But no, really fun to converse with Rico. And I am legitimately stoked to get over there and see this building up close and watch a college hockey game on my old campus. Man, that is going to be a moment in time. And October 24th can't get here soon enough for a lot of us in St. Paul. And I want to wish Rico and his coaching staff and his team nothing but the best. Super excited to see Lucas Wallen play a superstar college hockey player, just an unbelievably impressive young man that I got the chance to meet a couple days ago at the Xcel Energy Center. So good luck to the Tommies. As always, roll Toms. And for all those college hockey fans out there, it's going to be pretty wonderful to see programs like Providence and North Dakota and St. Cloud State and Denver and all the luminaries out there take their turn and come to St. Paul and play at the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena on the campus of the University of St. Thomas. Draft weekend is upon us in the National Hockey League. We'll track all the big moves by the Minnesota Wild and see what happens. At Gorgomatic 21, if you want to follow some of my opinions on said moves, or if you want to maybe ping me and make some recommendations for a guest that you want on the show. And if you know anybody that wants to be one of our partners and you want us to elevate their business, we are here for you. And the guy to get it done is the White Dog, Andrew Height, AHEYDT, over at talknorth.com, and we'll make it happen. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next time here on Wooden Sticks.